Hello, knitters. This is Jessica, the Lefty Knitter. If you're like me, you may not enjoy swatching. Uh, Swatching for projects like sweaters, especially, it's just not something that I enjoy doing. I think there is I just want to dive in and I just want to get started, I guess. There's just that mental block that I don't want to swatch. Now, I spent years because of this. I would swatch, but not properly. And because of this, I would make ill-fitting sweaters that I didn't really like, sweaters that I didn't really wear. Literally, one sweater didn't fit properly at all, and I completely ripped it out at the end. And especially at that time, I was a really slow knitter. It took me 4 months, 5 months to make that sweater, and I just ripped it out. So now I make my swatches properly, and this is what you're going to see. This is part one. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that right along with me that you gain an appreciation for swatching like you never did before. I hope it helps you see the necessity of swatching. And really, swatching isn't just part of the process. It's not just, I do this thing, I aim for this outcome, and I move on to my sweater. It is partly that. But we're learning about what the fabric is going to do, how it behaves while you're knitting, and how it behaves after you've washed and blocked so that you can wear it. It's going to give you so much information, and then you can decide what kind of fabric you like. And this particular process that I did this time is very unique because I didn't change needle sizes when I swatched to get a different outcome on this particular swatch. And I got an outcome that I think I'm really going to be happy with. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy. This is just a little pre-blocking video. I have here 2 swatches, and I made them in continuous form of some Woolfolk Far. My plan is to make a basic V sweater. I don't remember the designer's name, but the pattern is literally called Basic V, and it's just a very basic V-neck, beautiful sweater. I did swatch in the US 8, which is what the designer used. However, I'm using different yarn. So after I swatched, I counted the stitches, I blocked, and it ended up being way too few stitches per 4 inches, which means I need to go down needle sizes. So I actually went down to US 6, which is a 4mm needle. And as you can see in this first swatch, and hopefully it shows up like I really want it to, there's texture in here. And what I noticed with the very first swatch that I did, the texture does block out a little bit, you know, these uneven rows. And I wish I kept track of whether this was a knit row or purl row, but I didn't, because it is every other row, especially in the here. It's right here, skip a row here, skip a row here. Just got these irregularities that I really don't like. And there's so many of them. So I didn't like the fabric this is making, although I do think that I'm going to get gauge with this, the 4mm needle. So for that, I was using the Chow Gu interchangeable needles, which, you know, these are my typical favorite needles to use. But I just don't like how the needle and the yarn work together. So I decided to, as you can see here, I put in a lifeline. You can see it on both sides of my swatch. I put in a lifeline and I switched, and hopefully you can see the fabric, how it is a little smoother than the first. So here's my lifeline right here. And, you know, there's more variation in the stitches than there is here. I think in this one I might have a tighter gauge swatch as well. So I may have to make a decision after I've counted these stitches and blocked. But the difference is I switched to Signature Needle Arts, the stiletto tip. I typically don't like using these interchangeables. I only bought 2 different sizes just to try them out before I would dive into a whole set, because it's quite the investment. And now, unfortunately, the company is no more. So I'm really sorry. You know, you might be able to get them on eBay, but they're probably going to cost you an arm and maybe both of your legs. I don't know. Let me show you the difference in the tips between the needles. So we have the ChiaoGoo on the right and the Signature Needle Arts Stiletto on the left. And as you can see, that stiletto tip is just a little bit longer. I wouldn't say that it's any different diameter than the tip of the ChiaoGoo. Just visually speaking, it looks about the same, but that longer tip just allows you to work at a narrower gauge, just working on the tips to process the stitches and then hurry up and get them on your needle so that you have uniform stitches. I find that it helped me to get more uniform stitches. There was a little bit of catching still between the cord and the join, but not very much. This Woolfolk Far is a chainette yarn. You can see that it's kind of like chain linked together. So it did okay with the joins for the most part. Honestly, it was faster knitting with it after I switched the needles as well. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull out my sewing gauge. I love using a metal sewing gauge for getting gauge, you know, counting my stitches and counting rows for 2 reasons. First off, it's 6 inches long, so it's not, you know, some long tape that I feel like I need to push down. I can literally, it's nice and lightweight, you know. I don't know if it's aluminum or what it is, but just set it on the fabric and let the fabric do all the work. You know, I just count my stitches between my marks here. And before blocking, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 stitches. I'm going to count in 3 different areas. I'm going to average the count afterward. I do have another video regarding my methods, and I'll link that in the description box below. here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19 and a smidge. It's not even a quarter of a stitch, so I don't know if I'll even count that, but then I'm going to go farther up here. After I've relaxed into the knitting, I knit it bottom up. So after I've relaxed into the knitting, you know, you get a little bit truer count by doing that. So that's why I make my swatches a little bit larger. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, straighten it out here, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and a half. So I'm going to add 19, 19, and 19 and a half. And I'm going to average those numbers together. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing for rows. I'm not going to bother counting and averaging with the Chow because I don't even like the fabric that it has that I've created with it, because me plus this yarn and the needle, we don't play well together. I only like this second swatch of fabric, and this is the only one that I'm going to be measuring. In the past, the yarn did bloom, and it was just a little over 1 stitch per inch that it bloomed. So that meant, you know, say you have 19 and a half stitches, which right here I have 19, 19. So we're going to say I've got about 19 and a quarter stitches per 4 inches. I haven't averaged them. I don't have a calculator with me, and I'm using my phone. I'm going to say 19 and a quarter, but after I wash and block, it's probably going to be about 18 and a quarter. Target, I think, if I remember correctly for this pattern, it's either 18 or 18 and a half. That's close enough. Now, rows, I remember the pattern calls for 24 rows, which I know I'm not going to get. I think it's more in the 30 range. But for me, I think that's fine because my shoulder depth, you know, from my shoulders to my underarm tends to be shallower than most, which always meant, you know, every dress that I bought through high school and all of that, I had to have alterations done to shorten the straps considerably. So I think this is going to be fine because because I have more rows than the pattern wants me to. The neckline won't be so deep, which is probably going to end up being perfect for me. That's my body type. You just have to know your own, and you have to know your own knitting. This will allow me to know the characteristics of the fabric that I make, and we're all different. We have different tension, we like different needles, different yarn plays differently with different needles, as you can see by my double swatch. I'm going to measure my 4 inches, and I didn't go I would recommend going farther than I did for the 4 inches in the rows because it allows you to settle in more. But I was just impatient, and I didn't want to swatch anymore. I was tired of it. So, okay. So you make sure and you line it up at the very top of a stitch, right? And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That was my target. 25, 26, 27, 28 and a half. Kind of 28 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Last time when I blocked, my row count didn't change. Only my stitch count changed, which meant that when my stitches bloomed, they only bloomed this way and they didn't change in the rows at all. So the fabric didn't really change other than it relaxed and went whiter. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to just give that another shake here since I kind of stretched it. And I know it's going to be really hard to get a different count, but I'm just going to go somewhere else. Go to the top of the stitch, and we'll go one down here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So I have 28 there. What I'm doing is this accounts for my own personal changes. If I do an average, then I should, you know, get about the same. I'll understand what I should be able to expect of myself creating my fabric. You know, there are going to be variations as we're knitting. We're going to be knitting in different moods. We're going to be knitting in different times of the day. So this is going to give a little bit more of an accurate expectation of the fabric I'm going to create for my sweater, because I'll be knitting at different times of the day and different moods. You know, if I'm a little bit more stressed, my stitches might be a little tighter. Okay. So just to straighten this out, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. I'm kind of all over the place with that one. So now I'm just going to average my numbers. Okay, so I have done the math, and I have 19.17 stitches per 4 inches. This is before blocking. And 28.58 rows per 4 inches. The reason I measure and count rows and stitches before blocking is to learn what the fabric is going to do. This is my true, like, as I'm knitting the sweater, this is the true fabric that I'm going to get. But then blocking it, that is the true sweater that I'm going to have as it's worn. So what I'm going to do is, while I'm knitting, I will know how many rows that I need to knit before a certain, maybe an increase or decrease or whatever has to happen to get my final measurement. And I'm going to use what the blocked stitches and rows for my measurements, because that's how I want the final fit. This is what we should always be doing. If you're tired of making sweaters that are ill-fitting, that you end up not wearing or maybe not wearing as often, this is what I recommend. All right, I am going to wash and block this swatch, and I'll see you on the flip side.